G'day friends! Today I'm going through some vintage family photographs from the Edwardian era and putting together a game plan for starting an Edwardian capsule wardrobe. I have an ornate old steamer trunk that my dad and my grandfather found in my grandparents' garage. The house had been built by my great-grandparents and the steamer trunk lived in storage for a good long time. It's a beautiful old piece of furniture complete with domed lid and wooden trim on the outside, much like a beautiful antique treasure chest. It's a rather large and somewhat delicate piece of furniture, so it's safely stowed away in a closet. It currently holds a few of my own keepsakes, as well as some gorgeous quilts created by the husbeast's grandmother. When we first opened the trunk back in the 1980s, we found a number of artifacts hidden away. They were carefully removed and inspected by the adults in the room. The trunk needed a lot of TLC, so while I scrubbed the better part of 70 years of dust off it, the contents were packed safely away into a box and promptly forgotten. The most valuable treasure in the trunk was a collection of photographs. I remember my grandparents trying to identify faces and remember names. Those photos are over 100 years old now. I remembered them when I started thinking about historic Canadian fashion and asked my mother if she knew whether we still had the photos. We were certain we were going to have to dig through the utility room to get at them until she went out to their sunroom to put away a few things and found the box hidden in plain sight. This is highly unusual. Mum isn't sure just why that box was out there among the things to be sifted and disposed, but recommended I come over one day that week to pick it up. Now I'm trying to remember, were these from Grandpa's side of the family or Granny's?
The side.
Oh.
It says medium pictures and letters from trunk. I think this is the one I opened. So sit down and have a look.
We had a bit of a mystery on our hands as the few photographs that were identified had an entirely different last name than any commonly associated with the family. We wondered if someone had been storing the pictures for someone else, or had collected them as a curio piece, though why you'd collect family photos for folks who aren't your family is a bit of a puzzle. Don't know who that fellow is, but it looks like he's got a bit of dad in the nose and in the mouth and in the eyes.
I think if you take a look, they all were filmed in Pr0n.
Really?
I think these are the pictures that Granny said were friends of your dad's grandma, the farmer family. You remember in Pr0n there was farmers' shoes or farmers' clothing downtown?
Yeah.
Them.
Huh. It took me a while, but with the power of the internet and a lot of genealogical information somehow found available outside any kind of paywall, I have an idea of who some of these folks are. As far as I can tell, they're my grandfather's aunts and uncles and other extended family. Turns out my grandfather's grandmother, my great-great-grandmother Isabella, was married twice. Her first husband passed away when my great-grandmother Clara was still a child. Isabella then went on to have a few other children with her new husband, and some of those people and their families are featured in these pictures. Because I like genealogy and am an inherently curious critter, this automatically sends me down rabbit holes of family trees which I find fascinating but would utterly bore the pants off you. You have no idea how much willpower it's taking me to keep my head in the present. There are also a series of postcards which bear some lovely Edwardian stamps. They detail hopes for travel and visits, and the names show that the family still kept in touch as adults. Genealogical concerns aside, it gives me a good starting point for my historical Canadian wardrobe adventure. We'll be starting in the Edwardian era. My great-grandparents married in 1902, and the postcards stretch to about 1916. Some of the later pictures appear to be contemporary with World War I, including photos of Grandpa's uncles in uniform.
They must have been fairly well off.
You would think. As far as I can tell, Isabella's family was rather large and influential in their wee corner of Ontario. Her second husband, William, came from a similar background. Their families, parents or grandparents it would seem, were the first settlers in a small section of the Ottawa Valley that was rich in resources and opportunities. This means we don't have to stay strictly plain. We can dress things up a bit if we like. I'm seeing examples of hand-knit or otherwise hand-worked lace on collars and cuffs in the earlier pictures, and by the 1810s we're looking at machine lace and possibly bobbin lace. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button, you might want to do it now. You never know when I might do something ridiculous like learn how to make bobbin lace. I'm already working out the logistics of tatting. Lucky you get to see my half-arsed attempts at resurrecting half-dead crafts. Leave a comment below if you've gone out of your way to learn new handcrafts just to stick lace on a blouse or a camisole or such. Did it turn out the way you hoped, or was it hilariously bad and sent you back to the fabric store for some machine trim? I'd like to know. Some of the more affluent friends even have fur trim on their coats, capes, and collars. I don't think we'll go that far. These are being worn as symbols of wealth. Yes, fur can keep you warm and help prevent frostbite by wicking away moisture, but that's a lesson I learned in the Northwest Territories, where temperatures regularly sit at or below -40. We don't need that sort of trim on our modern fashion remake based on garments from Eastern Ontario. Entirely different climate and entirely unnecessary. Besides, I'm sure they're doing wonderful things with synthetics these days. By the looks of things, our little capsule wardrobe for the early 1900s would include suitable underwear, a chemise or camisole with knickers, or a pair of combinations, and a corset for the correct silhouette, possibly a corset cover. A blouse with moderately puffed sleeves that fall straight from the elbow. We don't need to go extreme puff. We can make this as fussy or as simple as we like. Whatever will do the trick. I'm seeing examples both with straight sleeves and tight sleeves, and I couldn't say how many years fall between. The blouse should have a high collar and feature lace either as a trim or as part of the yoke with ruffles, as seems popular here. The examples I'm seeing fall somewhere between 1890s England and the more modern Gibson Girl. It looks like rural, stylish Canadians were picking and choosing from their favorite parts of this time period and giving the garments their own flair. I think I'm seeing an embroidered waistcoat peeking out of this jacket, so that's also a possibility. If we're really ambitious, maybe even a jacket or coat. A skirt, quite possibly the then and surprisingly now fashionable walking skirt, or a straight skirt, likely in dark fabric. Petticoat and suitable legwear. And possibly hats. There are some really interesting hats in these photos. Apparently one of the extended family was a milliner. Amazingly enough, I haven't found any gowns. You'd think that with any small town social whirl there would be a few dresses. Nope. Everything here is fairly practical. That's not a bad thing. We're getting to see a slice of everyday Canadian life. This project isn't going to be done overnight. I'll be working on this for a good long while, possibly while also doing some history bounding and exploring other time periods. Because I actually like to make corsets. The Symington collection is like a toy store, and I want to make all of them and see how they all fit because I'm that kind of girl. First projects on the list? Underwear. I have to give this some thought. I'm thinking of working with the truly Victorian patterns, as I don't think I'm quite up to drafting my own quite yet. Stay tuned, folks. Click that little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified when I post new content, because YouTube is sometimes a fickle creature and nobody has time for that sort of tomfoolery. Till then.